Hi everyone, we are the Hawaii Language Roadmap, an initiative that sets out to promote the development of a multilingual workforce for the state of Hawaii. Welcome to another episode in our Language in the Community series. Today we are joined by Dr. Tusi, a native Samoan speaker who has a strong relationship with its heritage, language, and culture. Without further ado, let's get into the interview. Dr. Tusi, would you please introduce yourself and a little bit about your background?
Yes, I'm a recently retired associate professor from the University of Hawaii Scheidler College of Business, and also the director of the Pacific Business Center program that's housed under the vice president for research and innovation. I've been at the, and as the director, I spend most of my time working with the U.S. Pacific Island territories, primarily in areas of economic development.
And I know you speak more than one language. Would you mind telling us what those languages are?
Oh, yeah, well, actually, I'm bilingual. My first language is Samoan. My second language is English.
And I know we talked about this earlier. You said that most of the work you do has nothing to do with your language, right?
No, not at all. In fact, the only time I would use my language is when I'm in Samoa. We have a project there. But throughout my entire academic journey, there was no necessity or nor was there a requirement to use my native language.
Do you think that having a Samoan speaking background had an effect on how you on your own values and the way you see things?
Oh, absolutely. Um, Being able to speak my own language provided the gateway for me to understand who I am as a Samoan, why I am, and my relationship to my people, to my island, to the environment, to the universe. I would not have been able to fully grasp, understand, nor use it to progress along my journey once I left Samoa.
But even though you didn't use someone in your career or anything like that, would you say that those things that you had from someone helped you in any way?
Oh, absolutely. Because what it did is it provided a different worldview. Most of my academic training was, its basis was on Western science. Let me give you an example. Isaac Newton, Rene Descartes, is during the Age of Enlightenment, from the 16th to the 18th century. They compared the universe to a giant seal clock that operated with machine-like regularity. That essentially gave birth to the machine paradigm. This is very important because I grew up on a coastal island village. My world was a living world, not a machine. So by understanding that, that helped me create a different perspective than what I was being taught. Though I respected what I was learning, but I did not allow it to take over or push away the perspectives of my heritage, which basically helped me maintain a sense of balance as I moved forward. If I had lost that, it would be like losing the outrigger on your canoe. Slightest wave and you tip over.
So you mentioned that there you found a sense of balance when it comes to your own heritage and whatever you have learned from the Western society. Um, what kind of things or what kind of things have you done that kind of showcases that balance?
Well, cultures that come from or are based on the machine paradigm, they tend to address problems or solutions in terms of fixing those solutions. The challenge is when leaders from those societies start thinking about, well, we can also fix environments, we can fix cultures, we can even fix people. You know, and you can see the literature how people complain that they're being treated like, you know, a worn out cog on the machine. They're easily replaced. They just push you on and replace it with something else. This is really important because by understanding that, you can understand that cultural organization and how it's linked to the machine paradigm. Here's the difference. By hanging on to the living paradigm of my people and essentially my race, um, we come from a heritage of voyagers. On these voyages, there could be a group of people, and if one person is out of tune with everybody else, the entire group is at risk. So our great navigators learned, and they passed on this knowledge, that the real skill is healing. So and if you compare it with the Western paradigm, the machine paradigm, you can't fix hate. You can't fix anger. You can't fix vengeance. You can only heal it. So our master navigators understood this. How can you fix a broken heart? You can't. You can only heal it. And so our ancient master navigators understood this, and so emphasize the importance of healing in all that we do. So one of the great sayings that was passed on to me by my grandmother is the definition of leadership. Even though I'm at the College of Business and I deal with uh, junior executives working through a workshop or a seminar or a course in leadership and management, they have a difficult time understanding that concept. And I said, well, here's a quote that I learned as a young leader from my grandmother, who learned it from her Zaman. Good leaders lead, great leaders heal. So we can look at history, recent history. We just had a celebration of Martin Luther King. Yeah, Nelson Mandela in South Africa, Gandhi in India, Sister Teresa. These were great healers, Abraham Lincoln. So somewhere along the line, we started to shift away from healing towards fixing. But fortunately, the message in the teachings are still strong enough that its impulses have affected me to the point where now I'm retiring and I'm fully convinced that healing is the best route to go in all matters that deals with all issues. to raise the common good.
There's a similar to the quote that your grandmother taught you. You know of course you do, but the Psalm 1 proverb on leadership.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Leala pule o tautua. That's another one. That the road to leadership is through service. But then there are the values. I think what's important to understand is that we don't confuse the traits of ethnicity with the traits of values. If you're focused on ethnicity, it's a crapshoot. But if you focus on traits, shared values, that's far more stable and more sustainable.
That was the next question I wanted to ask. Much of what you said and what you owe to your success comes from your feeling of connection to
Yeah.
old wisdom and traditions passed down all the way through the first voyagers that reached Polynesia. And even as you said in the proverb, the Samoan proverb, things like that, ethnicity, blood is not the marker, but it's values and culture that are going to be
Yes.
passed. So that being said,
Yeah.
how it's impossible to tell somebody else's perspective, but you being a native Samoan speaker, how much more do you feel connected to those than you would if perhaps you lost the language? So do these things that ground you, how much has the language connected you to it?
Well, language connected to me simply because I can discern the wisdom within its context. I couldn't do that if I just learned the language, but I didn't know the basis for the language.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, or vice versa. Yeah. And the matter of ethnicity traits, um, probably the person with the most profound traits that align with the wisdoms of my ancestors and my heritage is a non-Samoan. Yeah, I mean, again, if we're focusing on ethnicity, we're missing the point. But if we focus on traits, um, values, spiritual dimensions of what is decent, what is good, and integrity, has nothing to do with your ethnicity. Yeah. Well, anyway, such a person is my wife. She's from Kansas. She's a Palangi. But she exhibits far more in the qualities of aloha and healing, you know, than probably myself. So when we get too caught up on our ethnic issues, I think it's like sprinting in the dark.
Besides, like the saying about leadership, what is some other or one saying that probably your favorite or one you also live by?
Well, I have so many,
Okay.
but I think we have something called a tofa. Tofa means wisdom. So if you have many tofas, we have many tofas to guide our lives. Um, Probably the four tofas for me that basically has guided my life are the first tofa is tofa fa'amaulalo. The second one is tofa fa'aaloalo. Third is the tofa alofa. And the fourth is the tofa fa'amangalo. Now in English, they would mean the first one is the tofa fa'amaungalo is that it teaches to embrace, to engage all people, whether they're high or low, with humility. followed by tofa fa'alo alo, which means followed by the embrace with the wisdom or the tofa of respect. Third is the tofa alofa. So you engage with humility, embrace with respect, and then you sustain with the tofa alofa, you sustain with love. And then the fourth tofa mangalo, is to heal with forgiveness. It gets back to healing. So the four tofas: engage with humility, embrace with respect, sustain with aloha, and heal with forgiveness. So the way it's taught is if these were four constellations, if they're not aligned, that means the humility is over there, respect's over there, love is over here, and healing is way over there. That means there's discord. And we tend to look outside of ourselves, so mostly it's inside. And so the wisdom is to restore alignment. You go to the fourth tofa. It's heal with forgiveness. Forgive yourself. And then repeat the process.
A lot of these students, they have a very superficial relationship with their language, and they often don't see the deeper value when it comes to um, being able to understand that language and being able to kind of help them learn other things.
Sure.
Yeah.
They will always have a superficial understanding. If they're surrounded in a superficial kind of environment. To understand the deeper meanings of language, you need to be interacting with elders. Otherwise, you have a situation where knowledge tends to outrun wisdom. The only reason I understand the tofas was because I spent a tremendous amount of my time with my elders, not with my peers. I mean, if I'd spent more time with my peers, I'd have been as shallow as I'd have been just very shallow and not know much. Everything would be more surface. And unfortunately, it can get to the head where you start showing off thinking, well, I can prove my ethnicity because I can say toilet paper in my own language. Yeah, but wisdom is sacred in our cultures. And if you want to understand the more profound dimensions of your heritage, then it's very important. Engage the elders. Spend time with them.
That's really good advice. So I can see that a lot of what you believe comes from those before you, I would say. And just to kind of like wrap things up, do you have any like final words just for those, especially to students who may be watching this?
Well, I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of the fact that I can speak my language. But that's something very personal to me. But equally important was that I needed to be able to be as proficient with the right tools with English. Um, and the way you become proficient is with constant practice and hard work. If you're not willing to do that, then you may be sitting around a tree that you planted that may never fruit. Yeah, there's no substitute for it's really important also. You must have a vision and a sense of purpose. Otherwise, why would you go through the trouble of learning English? It's because you want a better job, because you want to contribute to the political process to make your point of view known. It's so that you can enter an esoteric program, become a scientist, become an attorney, become an astronaut. There are many different reasons, but there's no easy way of getting there other than your willingness to work hard. I did. It works. I encourage my children and my grandchildren. Your language is a sacred treasure. Treat it as such. And you'll be surprised how they both weave forward into amazing opportunities. Other than that, go home. Spend time in the villages. Immerse yourself back into your culture. And then perhaps when you feel more complete and ready, then go back to pursuing an education or whatever opportunities it is that you aspire to. You can't get there without your willingness to work hard.
Deep roots, work hard,
Yeah.
follow the trail, Glory.
Right. And you will also learn that there are some things that we can heal with our humanity that we cannot cure with our science. And I think that's the gift of the tofas and the healing. And I think the world can be a better place if we can weave traditional wisdom, values, and spirituality with modern science and technology. That's thinking out of the box.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and really appreciate talking with you.